I, 32, male, was the first child of my parents. My parents run a business in the healthcare industry. They were both involved in the business, which effectively left me parentless throughout my childhood. I rarely had intimate moments with my parents and was always under the care of my nannies. My parents were also in the prime of their youth, so they preferred not to take the burden of parenting upon them. They led a lavish lifestyle, often spending more than what they earned, but since they both had hefty inheritances as a safety net, they always landed safely with their spendthrift habits. 8 years after my birth, my parents had a daughter, Emma. With the birth of Emma, it became clear to me that the negligence of my parents toward me was not because of their busy lifestyle, but it was because they didn't like me enough to spend time with me. Over the years, I had discovered multiple reasons to understand why this had been the case. I was a normal-looking child with average intelligence. I liked to keep to myself and talked only when I was talked to. Emma, on the other hand, was what my parents wanted to brand them as a perfect family in their business circles. She was a beautiful baby with blue eyes and curly golden hair. She got the best of both my parents, and even as a kid, she could grab the attention of a small crowd with her antics. Her addition branded my family as a perfect family. The special treatment endowed upon Emma doesn't mean that I had a hard life. I was privileged enough to attend an expensive private school and later an esteemed university, but the negligence that I faced during my life made me realize the need to work hard and earn respect in life. I worked my ass off in both school and university to grab a well-paying job. I worked hard at my job to progress forward as fast as I could. I still kept in contact with my parents, but the wound of childhood negligence never healed. Emma, being the golden child, was never forced by our parents to work hard. She was an average student in the first place, and that, coupled with how our parents spoiled her, she failed her classes. She stopped her education after high school, and our parents employed her at their enterprise. But even then, she was on leave for most days, and even when she came, she never stayed for more than a few hours. She had issues with all her coworkers, and people dreaded her presence in the workplace. I heard about Emma's temper tantrums in the office and the drama that follows them from friends and relatives back home. But what broke my heart was how my parents hid this from me. During one of the visits to my parents after I got my job and was well settled, I expected to have a chat with Emma on behalf of my parents. I thought an intervention at the family level would do her some good in her professional life. Emma was not present when I visited, and my parents made me feel like a fool by saying how half of their business was now being managed by Emma. I could feel that my parents were subtly comparing my achievements to those of Emma. That's when it hit me. For my parents, I'm the child that grew up without any interference from their side, and Emma was the child that grew up under their guidance. It would have been a shame for them that I was achieving more than Emma in life. At 19, I was already doing well in my university, while my sister, now at the same age, is partying around. Nothing much changed in the consecutive years as Emma continued living off our parents, and I progressed forward in my career. Though I did not know the exact reason, the relationship between Emma and me had strained during these years. As an elder brother, I understood what she might be going through. Everyone around, except our parents, compared her life to mine. She was constantly asked to trace my paths and be successful, but that was not what she wanted. But these comparisons forced our parents to overcompensate by promoting her unreasonably in their company and spending money on her demand. My sister was growing up without the ability to hold herself responsible for anything, and this was worrying me, but I had no space in her life to intervene and advise her. My parents had already pushed me out of their life, as my presence outshone the presence of Emma during parties and family gatherings. Emma preferred that too, so I made a social circle of my own at the place where I lived. 2 years back, I met my wife, Danielle. Danielle worked in the fashion industry, something which I thought I would never associate myself with. I had the worst fashion sense ever, and it still makes me wonder how a woman with such polished taste and fashion fell in love with me. Her entry into my life has improved the way I present myself, and that has boosted my confidence. Strangely enough, the void left by my parents, which had remained like that since my early childhood, was filled. Danielle's entry into my life let me explore parts of my character that I had no idea existed. So it won't be an exaggeration to say that this woman is the best thing that has happened to me in life. After dating for a year, Danielle and I decided to get married. We both had very few intimate people to invite to the wedding, so we decided to make the ceremony grand. We planned a destination wedding, and after much research, debate, and discussion, finalized Venice as the venue. I don't want to get into the details of the ceremony, but we both booked tickets for the guests that we invited and hosted them in the best rooms possible. The ceremony itself was a novelty for most of the people involved. Emma asked me to book tickets for her boyfriend as well, which I happily obliged, though Danielle had asked me to reconsider the decision. Throughout the wedding, I could see the flame of jealousy in Emma's eyes, and she was constantly being consoled by our mother. My parents were in awe about the wedding that I had planned, but they made sure to keep their excitement to themselves. Even before the wedding, my family had avoided my advancements to hold a family dinner together with Danielle. They continued to do this after the wedding, so after a while, I left the plan. Around the same time, I got to know that my parents were bad-mouthing me to people around them, claiming how I had used their money to complete my studies and get a job, but how I had left them in their old age. My father even commented that he was not going to leave a penny out of his inheritance to me. My aunt on my father's side, who has always been on my team, was kind enough to warn me about what had been happening at home. It would be a lie if I said that it didn't hurt me. Losing your family is a big deal, and Danielle held me through that phase. A few months back, I got to know that my sister was planning her wedding. My aunt told me that my sister was awestruck by my wedding and wanted something similar for her. She made her boyfriend propose to her and designed a flamboyant wedding in Tuscany, but she and her boyfriend were both broke, so she asked our parents to fund her wedding. To nobody's surprise, they gleefully accepted her request. But they couldn't afford a Tuscany wedding, so they asked her to shift the location to Hawaii. After much resistance, my sister finally gave in, and she designed an exuberant wedding in Hawaii. Throughout this planning period, neither my parents nor my sister cared to involve me in any degree. I even met them once while this was happening, but they kept silent about the wedding preparations. So I decided to accept the reality that I would be uninvited to my sister's wedding. To my surprise, a few weeks back, my parents invited Danielle and me to dinner at their house. This was the first time they were inviting Danielle to their house. So my innocent mind thought that it would be the first step in mending my relationship with my parents. The dinner went fine, but after the dinner, my parents dropped the bomb. They said that they had suffered some major losses in business and had an expected lawsuit against them hanging over their heads like the sword of Damocles. So at that point, they couldn't afford my sister's wedding. But at the same time, they couldn't let their daughter down, so they invited me over to request me to bear the cost of her wedding. The dinner was not a means to fix the issues between my parents and me, but they were using me to make their golden child happy. I was furious on the inside, but without even consulting Danielle, I accepted their offer, but on two conditions. I wanted to have full control over the design of the wedding, and I wanted to have a speech on the wedding day. They were slightly surprised, as I was not usually the one to give speeches, but didn't care as I was helping them with saving the esteem of their favorite child. Unlike my wedding, Emma's wedding was very crowded. Apart from her friends, family members from both sides of our parents' families were also invited. This was the perfect opportunity to speak my heart out, and that's the reason why I decided to give the speech. The wedding day was today, and I could see how dissatisfied Emma was with the arrangements that I made. We had very different tastes, and I was sure that anything I chose would make her feel like it was a poor choice, but I was there just to deliver my speech. So when the time came, I asked Danielle to record my speech. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, "I want to take a moment to thank my parents for giving me the opportunity to speak today." My parents looked at each other in confusion. They had expected me to say something about Emma, not them. "You see, for years, my parents have ignored me," I continued. "They never supported me or showed me the love and affection they showed my sister. But now that they need something from me, they come crawling back." There was an uncomfortable silence in the room. My words sunk in. My parents looked embarrassed, and Emma looked like she was about to cry. "But I'm not bitter," I continued, smiling. "In fact, I'm grateful. You see, this wedding has allowed me to show my parents just how successful and accomplished I am, and I have to say, it feels pretty good." I went on to give a speech about the differential treatment that I suffered from my parents, and how it still hurt me in the middle of all my successes and accomplishments. My parents sat there in silence, their faces red with embarrassment. As I finished the speech, I walked over to my sister and hugged her. "I'm so happy for you," I said sincerely. "I hope you have a wonderful life with your husband." And with that, I walked out of the reception with my wife, leaving my parents and sister behind. I drove back to my hotel room and have been sitting here in satisfaction. My parents have always painted themselves as the perfect parents, and that's a huge part of their reputation in our community. I'm happy that I finally got the space to tell the community how I was treated. But at the same time, I feel a bit guilty about using my sister's wedding for it. Am I the a-hole for ruining my sister's wedding day by making a speech about the negligence I faced from my parents since childhood? Update 1. A little before midnight, Emma came to the room that I was staying in and hugged me tight. She was crying, which made me sob with her. Danielle went out of the room to give us privacy. She told me how she had never known about my side of the story and had always assumed I was not attached to the family. Our parents had also made snide comments about me to her ever since she was a kid, which instilled a negative image of me in her mind. I apologized to her for ruining her wedding day, to which she was very understanding and even told me that our parents deserved it. This has been the most heartfelt conversation that I've had with my sister since her birth. Update 2. A week has passed. I hadn't met my father or mother before I left Hawaii, but today my mom called me to say that Emma had stopped talking to my father. My speech had left such an impact on her, but my father found my speech aggressive and disrespectful. He decided to cut all ties with me, but when Emma came to know about this, she stopped talking to him. My mother requested me to intervene somehow in this situation, as it was taking a toll on her. Update 3. Yesterday, I did the unthinkable. I invited all the members of the family to dinner and let them talk out their differences successfully. From feeling orphaned and lost for the past 32 years, I now feel like I'm leading a family. During the dinner, I talked out the differences I had with my dad, and though he was stubborn to accept his mistakes, I knew that he realized he was not a good father to me. My mom apologized to me for not being available to me as a mother. I didn't turn out bad, so I didn't have any reasons not to forgive her. By the time the dinner ended, I had made sure that the issues between my sister and my dad were also solved. It feels surreal to be involved in family matters. But my only fear is whether this will continue forward or not. Your family is just a bunch of rich a-holes who have been making money for generations and have no idea what to do with it. What's wrong with being raised by nannies when people are leaving babies on the streets? You received love and care as a child. That's why you turned out fine and are now making a hefty amount that helped you afford 2 expensive weddings back to back. NTA. But you could have done this early instead of being a doormat for these many years, hoping your family will learn from their mistakes and learn to love healthfully. From your side, you should learn to be more communicative instead of waiting till the last moment to explode. Next story. I'm 29, female. My fiancé, 31, male, are planning to get married next year. For some context, he is better off than me financially, no student debt, and a higher-paying job. We got a good handle on splitting costs. He owns our home, so I pay the bills. My name is not and will never be on the title. This was a joint decision I'm happy with. We also have a good arrangement for housework and chores. While no one gets married with intentions of getting divorced, it's important to be cautious. He asked me if I'd be willing to sign a prenup to protect his assets, and I happily agreed. In case a relationship goes south, bitterness could lead to unnecessary headaches and drama, so why not? He hired a lawyer and got the document ready. I have read it, it's fair. The problem is, for the document to be valid, I need to hire my own lawyer to review and sign off on it. That costs about $1,500. While I am not exactly broke, I also don't have that much money to spare. I told him that I don't think it's fair for me to drop $1,500 for a document that is mainly for his sake. Basically, I will definitely sign it, but I expect him to pay for my lawyer if he wants it done. He's very upset with me, and he's accusing me of going back on my word and making excuses not to sign a prenup. That is not the case. I'd sign it right now if it was valid without a lawyer.
We are at an awkward impasse, so AITA for not wanting to pay out of pocket for a document he wants?
I don't want it, but I'm not offended by it, and I sure as heck don't want to blow a lot of money on it. Marriage is already expensive. Edit to add. I pay the bills for groceries and split the electricity and internet bills with him. He pays fees, taxes, maintenance, etc. Final edit for now. Thanks for all the comments. I'm reading every single one, and I have a lot to think about. I was raised very independently, and I earn everything I have. I suppose I am so scared of coming across as using him for his money. He is not rich, by the way. Think of my income as lower middle class, and his as upper middle class, that I might be going too far in the opposite direction. NTA. He's an a-hole for accusing you of having ulterior motives. Unfortunately, you're both victims of the sad state of the lawsuit with prenups. In order for it to be valid, you need to hire and pay your own lawyer. If he pays the lawyer, there's a conflict. So tell him the problem is not the prenup, but you forking out so much money for something that only protects him. You can pay your own attorney, he'll get his prenup, but then he needs to pay you back for it by paying the bills for a few months or something like that, because your attorney will be paid by you directly and doesn't even need to know about the side deal you and your fiancé have struck. There's no conflict of interest. NTA. If he wants it, he needs to pay all the costs for it, plain and simple. I'd be a little worried. It seems like you may be ignoring some red flags. Okay, so it's his house, but you specifically said you've agreed that your name will never be on the title, so you're throwing your money away, paying all the bills on a monthly basis, and all he's paying for is a mortgage for an asset only he will ever own. You even called it our home, and yet it doesn't sound like it ever will be. I'd rethink that decision long and hard, and if he refuses to cough up the money for the prenup he wants, think even longer and harder. NTA. but I would seriously recommend you find your own attorney that specializes in family law in your country. Make a payment plan, a small loan, even if he's absolutely insistent on not paying, and you're absolutely determined to marry him. Consider this as an investment and a place to get non-biased and correct advice concerning the language of the prenup and what you should be considered fair for your own protection and that of any future children. This document should be considered just as important to you as it is to him.